What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Childish. We're back at it again with that episode 3 of Educate and Dominate. I ain't gonna lie, I'm extremely excited to bring you this interview that we got today. We have one of the top names in the game, Mr. ScatFetis. Scat, what up, baby?
Hey, man, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, buddy. Oh, man. So for those of y'all don't know, you better ask somebody, because if you've been following the Top 100 arena for quite some time, ScatFetis has been at the top of his game ever since I've been basically in this game. I don't remember a time when he was not in the top rank. So what we're going to go ahead and do, as always with this Educate and Dominate, is just go ahead and interview some stuff about him, talk a little bit about strategy, tactics, and whatnot, and see if his knowledge can help you be a little bit better for the next day when you get into this goodness we call Summoners War. So speaking of games and whatnot, Scat, why don't you give, because we got a lot of people that see you in the top ranks, but they don't know you. So why don't you fill them in a little bit about you and your kind of gaming story and how you kind of evolved from, video gaming when you first got into it, and then, where you're at today as far as Summoners War.
Yeah, sure. So from a gaming standpoint, I'm a dinosaur. I'm 31 years old. So I started on console games playing with my brother on Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and I loved the competition of gaming and playing versus somebody and just crushing them. So around the time that I first started playing, the internet became real because I'm a dinosaur, right? So there was online gaming, Quake 2, Diablo 2.
Oh yes, I was Quake, baby. I was Quake.
Yeah, so real serious Quake 2 player. I played that for, it must have been 6 years. First person shooter online. Diablo 2 was a lot of fun, despite all the bugs and loop breaks and if weapons. And, some of you may know what I'm talking about. And also I did a little bit of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
I just tried not to be seen at a few tournaments that I went to. I went to Grand Prix Detroit. So it's primarily about the competition of gaming and the fact that the internet brought an unlimited supply of players to play against. Whereas if I would play against my brother, he would rage. And so he would want to stop playing. So it was cool to have, the experience of just playing against other people. So in terms of Summoners War, it's a mobile game. I travel a lot for work. I can play it any time. And really, it's an RPG, turn-based RPG, Final Fantasy VII, right? For those of us that have played that game.
Right.
It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good. And it's funny that you say that as far as being a mobile game and it's easily to go. I actually do all my recording through my phone, the video, the editing, and everything. And that's what kind of has helped me. As much as there's, stuff to do, there's plenty of applications to utilize on your phone to make it a lot easier, or on the computer to make it a lot easier. For me, it's all about convenience. And so, for gaming now, there's so many games that I did up in the back in the day, EverQuest, World of Warcraft, Quake. I did the Quake, I did the Doom. I did them all, man. Any kind of RTS or first-person shooter, I did them all. And but for now, I'm 33, and so my wife and I, we just can't sit there in front of the computer and spend 4 hours on the game. We have to do something that's quick and easy we can kind of get into. So I can definitely relate, sir. I can definitely relate.
Right. You're a personal trainer, right? If you're getting through cardio, you can do a little replay.
Yeah. Dude,
level up a few units while you're on the treadmill or elliptical.
You have no idea how much gaming I play on the cardio. Yeah, it's horrible. It's bad. But let's see what we got here. So the next one I wanted to hit up, I think this is going to be the one that's going to jump at everybody. Because for me, I love to hear those hero stories. People going from zero to hero. When they first got into it and they got into the game and they started to progress within the game, they started to learn. When they have that competitive mind, that mindset, they start to picking up on various things that others don't really know about, and allow them to kind of take the leap forward and get above the rest and move into the top rank. So can you go ahead and explain to our viewers, your kind of start and, maybe the struggles that you kind of came into, and maybe some of those tips that you kind of learned along the way to get you where you are today?
Sure. So, like everybody else, I'm not going to bore in terms of building a giant team, understanding dragons, just researching, how to get to that point at least. I can start with my first Nat 5 summon. It was Camilla. Okay, so I'm global. I'm kind of known as the Camilla guy, the hard-hitting Camilla, and I have a Camilla build myself. But it must be nice, right? Your first summon is a Camilla, but I summoned Camilla back in the day when she did not self-heal and she did not clear debuffs. Okay. So she was not a great unit. And also, Camilla is one of those units where you really need the runes. You need Violent, you need Nemesis. Nemesis didn't exist back then, so it takes a lot of work to make that unit do some work for you. And back in the day, people were building her like a supercharged Rena.
Sure. Yeah.
So it wasn't really that impactful. Shortly after, I summoned a Juno.
Yeah,
which
buddy.
is like the infamous Juno. I've tried like 300,000 builds on her, throwing my best runes on that unit. That unit is broke. Come to us, fix that unit.
Fix
Stop
that
buffing.
shit.
Perna buff Juno.
Yeah, what was up with that buff and Perna, but we won't get into that.
Yeah. So, and then after that was Fire Chimera. Okay, and the reason why I bring up Fire Chimera is because the first time I hit Guardian was running a Fire Chimera with 2 Arnolds and a Chloe. Okay. So that was my AO team. That was not my defense team. So every match took like 20 minutes, right? And the draw button would always show up, but it was very consistent against the mid-range players. And so that was the AO that allowed me to break into that red star. And then shortly after Fire Chimera, I got Vanessa, and at that time I really didn't understand how powerful she was. And just along with Camilla, I barely used those 2 units in Arena. And they're both just late game units. So, as I was trucking along, got the right runes, those 2 units, Vanessa and Camilla really became paramount to my success. But ultimately, it's just an understanding of what's good in Arena, what's not good in Arena, and taking a second look at units that may be late game. Initially, you may dismiss them as sucking, and I think the latest example is Leo. I think everybody thought that unit was awful, but it's such a powerful counter to speed teams. Tanky Bruiser speed teams. I'm not talking about the Bernard, Zeros, Lucian speed teams. But we can talk about that more later.
Yeah, definitely. Keep going.
All right. So, as I was climbing, the defense that I was using that really allowed me to hold Guardian level rank was Vanessa Lee, Camilla, Darian, Chloe, which is a pretty standard build for any Vanessa Camilla owner. However, I really struggled waking up and still being in low G1 or Comp 3 falling out on Sundays. So I didn't understand what was wrong with my defense. It felt like it was a really powerful team. Vanessa is a huge speed lead boost, a res, defense break. Camilla just being a powerhouse. So I actually I shared kind of my concerns with Varian, right? So he's another player in Global right now. He's pretty well known, top player.
Yeah.
And he was in my guild Shogun. So I said, hey, just give me some feedback, look at my runes. And really what he said was I was missing speed. Okay. So, which is funny because I'm using Vanessa speed lead. So I just assumed, that's all I needed to do.
Right. Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so I started looking at my runes, and I have pretty good rune sets, and I started refocusing them to prioritize speed on all 4 of my units. When I did that, it was game changing. I mean, because I always tell this story. You go through a phase of when you're in Conqueror, you just see I need to get my Lucians really fast. I need my Bernard really fast. I got to beat their speed team defense. I just got to be, my Megan has to be faster than their Chloe or whatever. My Chloe has to be faster than their Megan. And that's all you think about. When you hit Guardian 1, okay, and you use a tanky team like I did, which is 2 Arnold's Fire Chimera, you kind of forget about speed. You're like, speed's not important. I just bring a tanky team that can take down anybody.
Right.
And then once you hit Guardian 3, you start to realize again how important speed really is. So speed is the top stat. It gives you more HP because you're moving quicker. You're dropping debuffs. It gives you more damage, right? Because you're taking more turns over the course of the match. So it was kind of like a remembrance that speed is important. That really was game changing. So I got about plus 40 speed in all 4 of those units. And I instantly went from a G1, G2 player to G3 consistently. And so that was pretty sweet. Then I got Chassoon.
Boom.
Chassoon is game breaking. Post nerf. And I threw Chassoon on my defense, and then I hit rank 1, and I was holding rank 1, for 3 weeks. And eventually people figure out your defense, and you gotta maintain it, essentially. But that's really my story. So I owe Varian a lot of support, but I think the lesson learned from that for me was don't forget about speed. It's critical. Make sure you have high speed on all your units. Obviously, Vanessa's broken helps with that. if you look at a lot of the top 10 players, they're running speedy teams, and they're running speedy bruisers. So not just in the context of like Bernard, Lucian, Zeros, or whatever.
That's funny, and it's funny because you already kind of highlighted a couple of other points that I wanted to hit up. Let me go ahead and jump into this next one. So, talking about certain types of runes and whatnot, as far as violent, even though they, said they fixed it, but they really didn't. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I kind of want to get into that because we're gonna have a lot of, obviously, the people at the top end are gonna be, listening to you and get some insight, but we're definitely gonna have a big community with regards to beginners. So, still to this day, there's a lot of people out there with regards to runes that really don't understand. The beginning runes and some of the runes that we kind of first start out with and some of the ones that we kind of evolve into, end game. So talking about those first couple of runes, Fatal versus Rage. We get over, talk about some of the basics when it comes to, utilizing a unit with like a Fatal, but as we understand, crit damage is very, very important. When is that hump? When should we switch over to that Rage? How much crit rate should you need? And maybe, if you can think of it, a general amount of at the end game time, a certain amount of maybe crit rate, crit damage, or attack power, something that they can kind of shoot for to kind of know they're on point. Because there's a lot of people that will see like a Lucian out there and be like, oh, I see this guy spec Rage Blade and do a lot of damage, but they got 32 crit rate but 162 crit damage. It's like that's not obviously going to work for you, So kind of get into that and see where you go from there.
Yeah, so Fatal versus Rage. So I'm not a math wizard, right? And there's plenty of them out there.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm probably gonna make somebody rage here in a minute. However,
rage over rage. They're gonna rage over rage.
So in my experience, without doing the math, I think the baseline is 50%, right? Pretty basic. I think you see 50% crit substats, and you're pretty good to use crit damage. Crit damage scaling is unbelievable compared to just attack percent. So I think it's well worth to always use slot 4 crit damage on any unit you want to do DPS. In some cases, I think people have stated where 45% or 40% crit still allows more DPS over time. But that's where you get really into crunching numbers. I think you just need to target 50% or higher. I'm at the point now where I'm really spoiled. If I don't have 80% crit on a unit, then I don't even run it.
Baller status.
I think all of you will get to that point.
Baller status right there.
my Camilla has 93% crit.
They know. I already showed them your Camilla. They know. Believe me.
Okay. So I just you get that feeling, right? It's like when you run a Fire Vamp or you run a Amen and you have 93% crit or 90% crit or whatever, and you just see that it like lancing hits on a target versus critting, So I really try to scale on crit as much as possible. I don't think it's overkill to go above 50%, like it may be with accuracy or resistance.
Gotcha. And for me, I've kind of like, as far as all the, I don't have the, the runes that you all have. So I generally, when I'm speccing certain units, I normally end up anywhere from like, 55 to 65% crit rate. And I try to get in around the 150 crit damage, somewhat. Obviously, every unit's different. You see a lot of units out there that, people, spec the, attack crit damage attack or speed crit damage attack. Is there a certain amount of attack power that they need to have along with that crit damage in order to get a certain amount of damage? Or is it just like get yourself the high crit rate, high crit damage? Obviously it depends on if the attack is based on hit points or speed or whatever, but what is there a kind of general range that they should have that they should shoot for, you think, or no?
No, I think it gets really unit specific at that point. It's a matter of what the scaling is innately in the skill.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a few units, I don't know, like maybe a Water Bolt Grow is one where you would throw a couple of attack runes and you would have an HP rune and she can still do some decent damage. Monkey King can do some pretty good, Fire Monkey King can do some decent damage with just HP runes. It's really, I think that conversation you start to get really into unit dependent builds.
Okay.
Or unit specific builds.
So let's go into the last rune question I got for you. Violent versus Swift. So right now, Violent was broken and then they changed it, but I still think it is kind of semi-broken. Whatever. It is what it is. When you're talking about certain units and then trying to focus on if they they can go both ways, whether they're Violent or Swift or whatnot. Do you have a when a person is considering Violent or Swift, what would you like recommend to them if you're trying to spec a unit this particular way?
So I guess in the context of PvE, I think Swift is pretty safe. Arena, Violent trumps every time. It's not even a question. I mean, Violent offers you breakout out of stuns, debuffs, whatever. I mean, you have the opportunity to deal double, the damage, reduce the cooldown on your skills. Swift is really consistent, and it's better. Maybe if you're running a speed comp and you want to use Bernard to be, take turn 1 and then try to clear the defense in 1 turn, it makes a lot of sense to stack speed. In PvE, speed is pretty safe on units just because you know what you're getting. It's very consistent. In Arena, it's all about creating the possibility for your units to go crazy. Swift doesn't allow for your units to go crazy. And again, I'm not talking about speed comps. I'm thinking more of like the tanky Bruiser meta, okay? In terms of a AD standpoint. AO, you can really win with anything, okay?
Sure, yeah.
Let's be frank. But I think what defines a G3 player versus somebody that's lower is how sustainable is your defense at taking a bunch of hits. And if you're getting a successful 1 in every 3 or even 1 in every 5, you're going to be in the top 15 as long as you're not losing any of your offense, which is not hard to do. So ultimately, PvE Swift is safer. Arena, unless you're running some YOLO comp, I would go Violent.
Okay.
Always.
Good deal. And it's funny. I wonder if we kind of carry the same name as far as how we're describing it. When I think of bruisers, I think of the tanky DPS units that maybe they're based on HP or defense, but you can spec them in such a way that like it's like a defense crit damage defense or HP crit damage defense. You talked about those kind of units, or?
Right. So when I say tanky bruiser, I'm referring to units like Darien is probably the most classic farmable example of a tanky bruiser. Beast monks are awesome damage dealers while also being very tanky. Camilla, all right, everybody knows, right, that unit's hard to kill and can deal a lot of damage if you just build straight up, crit damage attack on her. Oddball one that I have, my very first light and dark scroll, when I cleared Famon, I got a dark lich, which I was really pissed about, but they buffed it enough times where I think maybe I have some hope that I can do something with it. But it has like a 50% reduction passive, so he takes half the damage. So he's a tanky bruiser. The werewolves are all tanky bruisers is another example. They have skills that can scale on HP, or scale, or even Light Bulb can scale on defense and still deal a lot of damage to archangels. So those units are my core and my specialty. I love the tanky bruiser units. I've happened to get a lot of them. I think they're very good in the meta right now. Units that can take a lot of hits and deal a lot of damage.
Definitely. And I don't know if I'll throw this side question to you. Have you tested those kind of like a Dark Lich or whatever that lose 50% of their hit point? Can they get around units that balance HP? Like the light high elemental Chasun.
Oh yeah. So Chasun and Dark Lich are a married couple. Chasun does 100% heal on Dark Lich with his passive. His passive actually has 50% less healing in addition to 50% less damage. I mean, don't get me started on Dark Lich. I could talk for days on that unit because I have so much faith in it. And I've had my Dark Lich deal 40k damage with its AoE. So I'm excited by it, and maybe I'll talk about it more. We can do like a spotlight episode on it once I get it up to par.
I got a pretty funny feeling that once the headline goes out that I'm interviewing you, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to get more of you. So don't sweat it. Chances are we'll probably be doing another one, definitely. If not you just alone, but you with everybody else. So definitely.
Sure.
Let's see here. So another question, and I think I might be saying this wrong because again, I am definitely not at your level in the theory crafted or whatnot, but I'm trying to understand myself because I think bruisers are like they got this thing about them that I think is kind of a good thing and a bad thing. I can't really understand it, but you got units like the Beast Monk and the Fire Chimera and stuff like that have attacks that are scaled to the max HP or proportionate to the max HP. So they kind of have a benefit, if I'm understanding it correctly, where they can have an opponent attack them and utilize an attack debuff. But if they attack back with an attack debuff, does it affect their damage since their damage is based on their hit points and they're not losing hit points? You know what I'm saying? Or is the attack power debuff still affect their damage even though it scales towards their max HP?
Yeah, so those units will scale. It's not their current HP, so they'll do the same amount of damage regardless of what their health level is. But with the attack debuff, it does impact them, despite them scaling off HP, defense, or whatever. So if you land an attack debuff, the unit will do less damage, whether it's a foe.
It will do less damage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Well, okay, in my experience, I've noticed it does less damage. Who knows? There's probably going to be some math wizard out there that's going to be like, no, I've noticed different.
No, bro, you're wrong. You have no idea what you're talking about, bro. I don't care if it says you're top 2. Don't listen to this guy. He has no idea what he's talking about, obviously.
So based on experience, I think the way that the defense, speed, and HP scaling works is it's just like, if it's just like any other modifier on the skill, and the attack debuff happens at the end of all those calculations. So I think it reduces the damage on the unit either way. An attack debuff anyways doesn't really, it's not like a glancing debuff where it causes your unit to like shoot peanuts. So I think an attack debuff is not really reducing that much damage anyways. So I think it's probably more useful in PvE than it is Arena.
Definitely, yeah. So one of my questions was the first 6-star, but obviously you already answered that. How about we dive into the next one where we talk about
real quick, my first 6-star was Fire Vamp.
Okay. We were talking first natural 5. My bad, fail.
Yeah.
There's the fail of the video. Congratulations.
It was Fire Vamp, and when I got that unit, if you all get a Fire Vamp, just treat it well, treat it right. That unit has so many hidden benefits in terms of you're taking, what is it, like 1.5 turns to their 1 turn or whatever the math is,
right.
But you take less damage, you can run riskier high damage comps, amazing unit in dragons, in B10 dragon runs, and really helps speed up your comp when you get the right units in place. But yeah, I was really happy with that decision, although I think a few others say to keep them 5-star and worry about your other units first, which there may be some valid points to that, but gotta love the Fire Vamp.
And since we're talking about the Fire Vamp, a lot of people, I don't know if this is a mistake. I might be making myself look bad by saying about this. There's a lot of people in that mid to late stage, not like late stage like yourself, but in the mid to late stage that are trying to utilize the Fire Vamp for what it is. And, truthfully, it's that support unit, right? We're trying to get as much turns as we can. And so we're trying to get the most speed that we can. And I still see to this day, even though they go, speed on 2 and crit rate on 4, I still see people utilize attack on 6. So for those people that don't have the best runes and they're trying to utilize it to, improve their Dragon Speed 10 runs, the efficiency of it or whatnot, should they focus on attack on that 6 slot, or do you recommend hit point on 6?
I recommend resistance on 6.
Oh, shit. We just hit it. Oh, damn.
So, let me mix that up. So I actually use slot 2 HP. And I use, the crit rate rune on slot 4, and slot 6 I use resistance. Mostly because it's what I have, okay? And I think that's what other people should use as well. Simply because it works in dragons. And really, if it works in dragons, it works everywhere. And I'm okay with Fire Vamp going last on my team. And the reason is your team will take turns, drain their attack bar. The Fire Vamp will go last, and especially if it's on Violent. Will then buff everyone's attack bars, so you're getting max efficiency, right? Because everyone's at 0 attack bars, and your Fire Vamp is then moving and buffing it, 40%, whatever it is. And then if you get a Violent proc, then they're taking a whole nother turn. So,
wow.
So I'm okay with Fire Vamp going last. I don't think there's much sense in using all your best speed runes on a Fire Vamp. Save those for Arena. Unless you really want to go hard and put Fire Vamp in Arena. I don't think it's a good unit for Arena. It's really squishy, easy to deal with. But in terms of PvE, save your speed substats for your tanky bruisers or your YOLO comps, and let your Fire Vamp go last.
I like it. You know how many people are writing this shit down? You're gonna see so many people in their little YouTube videos now. Everyone's gonna be running this setup. I'm showing your unit right now so they can go back, because I showed all units prior to, but so they can see it. You heard it here first from the Childish Plays YouTube channel. This is how Vertihill is supposed to be done. If you don't know, you better ask somebody. All right. Since you were talking about the favorite offense teams, why don't you hit people with you already talked about a main team that you've utilized as far as Arena defense. What is your kind of go-to team for Arena offense that's like the end-all be-all? I can take this team in and pretty much take out the majority of my competition.
Yeah, so if we're talking about Sunday nights, you have a little bit of reverb right there, but it would be by far Vanessa, Camilla, and Chessoon and Fire Monkey King. So those 4 units are pretty much what I take to every defense, regardless of what it is. Fire Monkey King is unbelievable against stall comps. He builds stats, and then he just starts one-shotting everything. Camilla is really solid. Has built-in anti-CC. Those units that stack a lot of HP in arena, like a lot of defenses do. Her second attack scales really well. So that's my safe comp. You know, in the last hour of arena, losing on your AO it's gonna lose you rank 1. It's gonna lose you rank 10. You know, in the top 10.
Right.
So you really can't afford a loss on your AO. And so you know that's the team that I really stick with. I think some of the older players that migrated to Asia have these Swift runes that are just unbelievable, which based on the drop rates, I feel like it's much harder to get these speed substats. But you know, for those players that started later and started farming giants later, where you know they focus primarily on Bernard, Lucian, Zeros comps on their AO, and they can clear defenses really quickly. I think on global, it's more of a tanky Bruiser meta, so AOs are often a little bit slower, a little bit more calculated, and take a little bit longer, I think, than matches overall. So, yep. That's it. So that's my AO. That's what I usually stick to.
And you pointed out something with regards to Fire Monkey King that it's funny. I wrote that in notes, but I didn't ask or whatever. So fail again on my part. You know, units like the Fire Monkey King and like the Light Serpent, they got that skill that you know increases by a certain percentage. Kind of has that kind of counter that can go up to 5 times or 10 times or whatever. Right. You know, you still see people in this game that spec it. You know, with attack, crit damage, attack, or attack, crit damage, HP. You're kind of rocking 2 HPs as well as a crit damage. So for me, when I look at that, I think, well, you know, obviously the I don't know, you know, how it scales because I don't have one to try it out, but I would think that you need to have the hit points to be able to withstand some hits, get the skill up to be able to take the benefit of that. So do you value? I mean, you value HP on 2 and 6 for that, but what do you recommend to the people that are in that? Maybe they're in the, you know, Conquer 1, the Guardian 1, and they're kind of leveling up and they don't have all the great runes that you have. What do you kind of recommend for a setup, and then how do you evolve to your setup?
Yeah, so what I recommend for like a Fire Monkey King or a unit that has attack stacks, if you're using it in arena, you definitely want the unit to survive. The reason, so my old build on Fire Monkey King used to be attack, crit damage, HP. So I had a hybrid build just to give more sustainability. The issue is, you know, with Veramos, I had to remove my Darien on defense. It didn't feel like it was as effective. People's Veramos can tank a lot of the defense breaks. And Darien is a little slow. So I replaced it with Fire Monkey King, so I had to bulk him up a little bit to use him on AD. You know, even with HP, crit damage HP, he hits with max stacks against a neutral target about 27k with the defense break. And he has a built-in defense break in his kit. So he can hit very hard with HP runes. Crit damage scaling is awesome, and those stack modifiers, that attack power buff that he gets when he gets hit, all scales on crit damage. So really, you know, it's a hard-hitting unit without stacking a bunch of attack on him. And same thing goes with the other units, and Dark Lich is one of them who has those attack power stacks. So, you know, depending on your application for that unit, I would definitely consider going tanky. If your team can stall out long enough. If you're running a really squishy team and you just have one tanky unit, then obviously it doesn't matter. I mean, the Fire Monkey King's not going to do much for you or any of these other attack power scaling units. But
cool. So actually, we talked about Varian a little bit. You know, when we get into the top ranks, you know, people think that everybody's like in it to win it, and you know they're it's all about themselves, and they're not really, you know, it's like a clash, like boxing gloves, you know, when go out to people. But you know, conspite to what people think, you know, you and Varian have been, you know, top dogs for quite some time. Yet you have a pretty you know, astounding relationship. Talk about how you you know, got into the game and got into, you know, with Varian, and then, you know, how you communicate today.
Yeah, so we actually recruited Varian out of Shoguns with the server transition, and we, oh my god, Bomber as well as Jakeem and I. Later on, Varian moved to Absolute Void, and I essentially ended up following him because I think Shoguns at the time was looking for more of a smaller scale. They wanted to focus on kind of running Guild Wars casually versus, like, you know, going nuts on Saturdays. So with that, I followed Varian into Absolute Void, and you know, shout out to our guild. But you know, he's very skilled. He's been running dragons for a long time. He has the fastest comp. whether it's global or Asia, in terms of a person that's actually recorded and shown time. I think he's had like a minute 30.
Yeah, it's
less.
sick.
Yeah. So, I mean, the guy has some crazy runes, and he has a lot of knowledge of the game. He's also a math wizard. He's an engineer by trade. So I had a lot to learn from him in terms of the math piece. And we both have opposite personalities, whereas when I get a new unit, you're guilty till proven innocent. I always assume that a new unit is going to suck until you show me otherwise, whereas he always has the attitude of, this unit's great and it's awesome, and I'm going to give it all the best runes and see what happens, right? So we're kind of like the yin and yang of our unit assessment. So it ends up working out in terms of providing feedback. And really, and what I recommend for players that are trying to break into Guardian, that are in Guardian 1 or Pong 3 and are trying to make it to the G3 level is buddy up with someone. And if you can stream your matches, and Barry and I are a little spoiled because we're usually in the top 10, so we can find each other pretty easily. We'll use Twitch, just stream your AD, watch the unit interaction, and it really helps you decide what you need to do on your defense. And Barry and I have had that relationship, and that's why I think we both have grown in terms of seeing how our defenses perform. Yep. So yeah, he's a solid guy. He's a business guy like myself. So he's just great partner.
Yeah, he definitely sounds like a great partner, definitely, for sure. And it's kind of funny that you talked about like watching your stream. I've been trying to tell Comtours for years, man. They need to bust out a replay function for these arenas, the defensive wins or losses or whatever, so you can actually see people attack you, see what they do, so that hopefully you can learn from the mistakes that they made or your units made in the defense and be able to move through. So only got a couple more questions for you, man. We'll get you out of here. Next one up, we got a series on my channel called Underrated and Overlooked, where we kind of showcase certain units, farmable, fusible, whatever, that are considered underrated and overlooked in the game. Most people don't use it. You're at that next level, so you've had a lot of experience with a lot of units, let alone seeing a lot of units utilized through your various skill members and friends in the game. What do you feel is the most underrated and overlooked unit of our time right now? And talk about it a little bit.
Okay, and we're talking about farmable.
Well, it can be farmable, it could be fusible, it could be regular, just underrated and overlooked. What do you think?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say Dark Lich. Okay.
Boom.
But I already talked about that.
Right.
It's any unit that has a passive that reduces damage is crazy, because you can just build all damage on that unit and it'll be a rock star. Okay. However, I think let's talk farmable. I would say I like Water Werewolf a lot. I have mine 6-star. I don't use it currently because my Camilla usually takes its place. But I like that 3-turn defense debuff. I like the buff on his third attack that scales off HP. A 3-turn defense debuff is pretty sweet. And
it is.
He hits pretty hard. His fair warning, his AI on defense is pretty bad, like the Light Werewolf, because he won't use his heal unless he's really low, which is also the speed boost. But other than that, if you need a Water Bruiser, Water Werewolf is freaking awesome, and his third skill can do anywhere from 18 to 25k damage if you're giving him your good HP runes. So I would say that's one that I don't see very often, that people should look into. And then okay, so we talked about farmable, fusible. I gotta say, I really underestimated Veramos. It's amazing how much that unit has changed the meta. And if you're talking about tanky Bruiser, Veramos is exactly it, right? It does a lot of damage. Self-healing and is really made defense breaks hard. Defense breaks were the name of the game, and you really struggle now with the fast Veramos to stick a defense break and control that Veramos. The stuns are crazy. So get your Veramos, prioritize your Veramos versus the other two fusions. Don't even bother with Katarina, but and really utilize that in AD. I think a lot of people have been doing that, and just basic farmable AD is throw a Darien, a Veramos, and then 2 other units, maybe a Werewolf or something, and you'll have a lot of success in the early levels until you get some of those big hitting units.
Yeah, it's definitely hard with that Veramos and those arena defenses. I always have a pain trying to keep a defense break on, for sure.
I gotta say though, now that Veramos has changed the meta, and this goes all the way up to G3, Chessoon, attack buff is another way for you to deal more damage against a unit that you can't land a defense break against. So just utilize your Chessoons more and more. I know I have. And if you happen to land a Fire Monkey King, he's immune to stuns, right? Any unit that's immune to stuns is really useful in the Veramos meta. So something to think about if you have a Fire Monkey King or if you're underutilizing your Chesson.
Yeah. Jasun is huge. Yeah, buddy. What about underrated and overlooked Rune? What do you think about that? Like, what's the big one?
I mean, is Revenge underrated or no?
Well, it depends. I mean, I think it depends on how you use it. Like, for me, I definitely love Revenge more than a lot of runes. Like, I'll give you an example. I've been utilizing, before I got a Violent set on Darien, I was using a double or triple Revenge setup on Darien. You know, utilizing if I found a team that was water based, I would take 2 win units plus Darien to force the team to fight Darien and provide an extra counterattack, you know, and then utilize my win units to take it down a little bit quicker. Now, a lot of people don't do that, but I feel that depending on, you know, how you set up the Revenge, it could be definitely beneficial. You don't see a lot of people going full Revenge because they just don't have the opportunity to get those kind of runes. But if you feel Revenge is, I mean, I like Revenge. I like Revenge for underrated, but people do utilize, I mean, you know that.
Yeah. So I think, Revenge is pretty powerful. I guess I'll take this moment. So Revenge is awesome on units that obviously have a great auto attack like Perna or Monkey King that can stun, or you know, there's plenty of units with great auto attacks. But Nemesis is way better to use on units that have self healing, like a Chow or a Camilla, or I can't think of any other ones. But any unit that gets benefits, or a Veramos, for example.
Sure.
So it's kind of the difference of when you use Nemesis versus Revenge, but. Underrated runes. I mean, I use a lot of Endure runes. I don't know. You get like some 50% resist, and hope that you resist that once defense break, on some of your units. But ultimately, I think Revenge and Nemesis runes are where it's at. I see Revenge is a little bit more underutilized than Nemesis, and that could be just because it's a new rune and not too accessible. But I would like to see people using Revenge in a lot more units because it's like free DPS.
Yeah, for sure. So another thing too here, as I say in all these videos that I make, I think, and I talked to you about this prior to starting the recording. My guild that I make is Epic Fail, and one of the things that we, the reason why we created the video or the guild is, in some of our summoning sessions we started, doing the stream or doing the video recording, and we just failed miserably. We try to plan it out as best we can, but we continuously fail. So one of the things that we do in our summoning sessions with people is talk about their epic fails. So why don't you hit your viewers real quick with some of the best epic fails you have had in this game?
Oh man, Julie. Juno? No, I mean I gotta look at my list. I mean I have. If anybody looks at my 6-star monsters, it's unbelievable how many units I've really tried to make work. I think the Light Werewolf in G3 is not enough. Water Werewolf is really good mid game, but is a little tough at end game. But I think, I think Fire Brownie had a lot of hope. I just can't seem to make that unit work too well. It's another fail is a little harsh. I had a light Barbaric King that I thought was really sweet, and he's just kind of sitting in storage now. So in terms of failed monsters, I have a whole sea of them. But I think initially it was, there was a lot of ratings back in the day. It was the Cydia's rating list, I think, was the go-to rating list for monsters. And on that list, we had S tier Orochi and had S tier Julie, or I guess it was A+. And those two units in my eyes are epic fails. I don't like either one of those units. And so, I think the list goes on. You try different monsters and you try to experiment. But I certainly have a lot of failed projects. So come to us if you ever want to release 7-star monsters. I'm ready.
Yeah, you're ready.
I know everybody else is gonna hate me for saying that, but I have enough.
Dude, it's so sick. I don't even if they do it. I don't even know if I can continue the game because the work it takes to get 6 stars for me. I couldn't even imagine how bad it would be for trying to make 6 stars or whatever they decide to do to go into 7 stars. It's crazy, but
yeah, I'm just trolling. I'm gonna get rid of all my failed projects. That's all.
I hear you. But that pretty much concludes the questions that I have for you. If you want to go ahead and kind of give a little shout out to anybody that's kind of watching this one. Look at that fail. I just got a 10% battery remaining on my phone. There's a fail. But if you want to give a little shout out to anybody out there before we kind of conclude the session.
Sure. Couple. Absolute Void is the guild I'm in. We're recruiting. Love the guildies. Half Euro, half have Americans, all awesome people. Oh my God, Bomber at Twitch. I think he was the streamer that really kicked off all the other streams. That I'll hang out with him quite a bit if you want to talk to me live. And also, he's gonna hate me if I don't do this. F1008, new streamer. Chi-woo! So if you watch the stream, you know what I'm talking about. And so those are the shout outs. Awesome group of guys. So if you guys are looking for a community, I just come on to, Oh My God Bomber at Twitch, OMG Bomber, and I can hook you up with some awesome people to learn about Summoner's War.
Sweet. Thank you so much for your time, man. It's been a true pleasure to get in with this and get some insight. I'm just kind of going over everything we talked about. They're gonna rewatch this one for times to come. It's crazy, man.
Good. I'm glad I could help.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all for tuning in. It's your boy Childish and Scat with Childish Plays checking out. Take care. We will see you next time. We're out.